everybody. Welcome to episode 2, part 2 of the Big Apple Battle, a New York baseball podcast. And today, Ed, we are talking the way too early prediction show here on the Big Apple Battle. But honestly, maybe it's not way too early because if you are a Cubs or disgusting Dodgers fan, cue in the boo sounds, then your opening day is right around the corner. Today, we're
That's
covering
way too early. Speaking of way too early, that's way too early.
way too early. But regardless, Ed, today we're going to be covering all things early season lineup predictions, record predictions, and wrapping it up by touching on our feelings behind MLB opening up the season yet again at the Tokyo Dome. So, Ed, again, welcome. It's good to be back, and we just really couldn't wait another week for this next episode release because I know you and I were really eager to talk predictions. And us baseball nerds, we know it's all about the stats, baby.
That's what I like to hear. And we're feeling a little lucky today because today is St. Patrick's Day. The luck of the Irish is feeling it. And I'm saying konnichiwa to my friends in Japan. We're getting you all culturally confused on this way too early preseason prediction podcast with the Big Apple Battle. So without further ado, Alec, I think
Yeah.
because we lead this off, we got first pitch at 3 o'clock. You guys got an hour delay out in Houston. Where you will have a problem. I'm just telling you that right now.
Ooh,
So,
Houston, we will not have a problem. And Ed, I will say this. Sorry to cut you off.
no,
It gives
please.
me, gives me an extra hour to get the hot dogs on the grill, so I'm okay with you guys starting off.
That is true, and a little bit of liquid excitement to
Damn
wash
right.
them down with, right? So
Always.
it'll be a fun time. We're all looking forward to it, but I'm excited to get moving on these opening day lineups. And like I said, want to supersede you because we are the big boys in town. We still are the boys from the Bronx Bombers,
Woo.
the New York Yankees, 27-time world champions. And again, this is our city until anybody else takes it from us. So we're
Mm.
going to go first, and I'm not even giving you a chance to say anything further. How's that sound?
Well, you just gave me a.
Nope, I'm still talking. Damn it, I was going to
Well,
cut you
Ed, you
off.
know what? You gave me that little chance right there. So I will say one thing and one
All
thing
right.
only. You might have just jinxed yourself. The listeners now know it's St. Patrick's Day, but I hope you didn't jinx the Yankees by going on that whole Big Brother bullshit that you guys like to do.
I'm trying to inject a little excitement here. We're always looking for the pot of gold, and the Yankees, there's no shortage of that gold, as we well know. But I think Uncle Stevie's bringing his own pot to the game this year. So
That's
we'll be
fair.
seeing how that goes. And the competition for the money, the contracts, and outspending for a championship is fully underway.
So, Ed, before you dive in, though, I know the fans are probably eager for these predictions. Why don't we just give you the quick roadmap rundown real quick on how I envision
Fine,
this
fine, fine. I
rolling
got a little
out?
excited. All right, go
I know
for it.
I'm stalling. I'm sorry, but what we're gonna do, we're gonna go one for one. I'm predicting our lineups and then discussing the team's strengths and weaknesses. And then from there, we're gonna dive deep into some more bold predictions on monster first weeks, who can't afford to have a slow start, and some early in season matchup predictions. So, Ed, without further ado, let's hear your Yankees way too early opening day lineup prediction.
All right, let's get her rolling. And so I wrote this up a couple days ago before anything was even announced for our starting pitcher. It was announced that Max Fried might not line up for the opening day start. Obviously, our ace Garrett Cole down for the season. And we would think our new shiny toy would be the starter. So I penciled in, before anyone told me, Carlos Rodon, which makes sense, obviously. It's not really
Mm.
like I've, Edstradamus over here. I've figured out that that would be the next guy in line. It will be Rodon versus Freddie Peralta for the Milwaukee Brewers. So, with that in mind, we constructed the lineup in that vein. So, let's lead it off. Start off with Cody Bellinger, who I believe should be the leadoff hitter in that game. He's been tearing it up. Again, we talked about 22 total bases, probably more after today's game, where he got a nice RBI double. So he's been tearing the cover off the ball to start the spring. He has great numbers against Freddie Peralta in his career. So it seems like a no-brainer. I know we're testing Austin Wells as the leadoff hitter. I like the idea of maybe Cody Bellinger and Austin Wells flip-flopping that 1 and 3 spot in the lineup in the early going in the season. So Bellinger leading off, playing left field, and he's a lefty batter. So we're going to have some symmetry here. Aaron Judge, righty, obviously, playing right field, batting number 2.
Not much to say there.
Not much, but so he's got his rightful spot back now that Soto is vacated. So we'll see another MVP performance out of our king, Aaron Judge. Third will be lefty batter Austin Wells, catcher for this game. Cleaning up, Goldschmidt, batting right-handed, first base. And second base, batting fifth, Jazz Chisholm. Now, after that, this is where things get a little funky. Jason Dominguez has been having some issues in the outfield. I think the way to start the season is to give him confidence with the hot bat. He's been tearing the cover off the ball the last couple weeks, hitting home runs with more frequency, getting more contact consistently, just looking like the player that we've seen him, we've been told we would be seeing soon. And I like Jason Dominguez as the switch hitter in the sixth spot as the DH. Give him some confidence, give him the at bats, let him focus on that. Don't make any mental errors in the field, and give your bench and other players a chance to, again, show off what they've got to offer, especially from a more veteran perspective. So going further, we go switch switch now. So we're going Dominguez six, Oswaldo Cabrera at third base, switch hitter again, batting seventh, batting eighth, lefty Trent Grisham. He's going to take over the center field spot,
Mm.
hence Cody Bellinger in left, because I want Bellinger to have more versatility in the outfield. And I think of the players we have out there, he's one of the more, they're all elite outfielders, right? Grisham, Judge, and Bellinger. But Bellinger has an ability to play all over, and I want to see him test the hardest field in left in Yankee Stadium, especially during a sunny 3 p.m. start. Really want to take everything off, onus wise, off of Dominguez. So again, then we go to Grisham in center field, as I said, and batting eighth is going to be Anthony Volpe as our shortstop. Or sorry, this would be ninth. I'm totally twisting up my numbers here. So let me go back through this. One is Bellinger, two is Judge, three is Wells, four is Goldie, five is Jazz, six is Dominguez, seven is Cabrera, eight is Grisham, and nine is Volpe. Sorry, can't read or do my math very well. I had Rodon at the end there, so I started adding an extra slot. So Volpe I like at the end. Give him a chance to not have all the pressure as the leadoff hitter to start the season. Bury him in the lineup. Let him, again, continue to work on his contact, driving the ball to all fields, and having a little bit of speed at that ninth spot gives you a second leadoff hitter, as we used to call it.
Yep.
A little bit different in today's roster construction, but I think that opening day lineup gives you an opportunity to start the season smoothly and on a hot note. So
Yeah.
I'm feeling good about that.
And I was gonna say I like that line of prediction. I think it's always fun to do this when you're a little more out there on the line of prediction. I think you might get some feedback in on the Austin Wells in the three hole for you, but
Hey, I like the switching out. You got to try it out. And he hasn't done the leadoff spot yet. So outside of spring, and I know we like the Schwarber like mentality, and we're liking
mm,
what we're seeing with power out of the leadoff. But I like Bellinger's versatility, and I think if those two can find a way to flip flop depending on what's coming and who the better, or just what the matchups are, I don't know. It seems like a no brainer.
that's fair. And I think the way you balance the lineup, you did it well. Having Jazz lower in the order along with Volpe in the nine hole. I still love that idea. I'm an old school baseball guy, and I love the idea of that kind of so-called second leadoff batter. So you know what? As a Mets fan, it's not bad. But I will tell you one thing,
Not bad.
and I
It's
think this
better
is a
than
good.
your garbage
I
lineup you're
think.
going to
Oh,
trot
you
out there.
well. Let's go. Let's go. I think it's a good transition, Ed, because there's one guy you're missing from your lineup, and
Ooh, all
I'm sure
right.
you might know who that is, and I'll rattle off the Mets lineup. Maybe I'll ring a bell or two.
Oh.
So here we go.
We're not
Now that
longing for any of your guys. I'm just letting you know that right now.
the 2025 New York Mets opening day lineup, drum roll, please. It's going to be batting first, shortstop, Francisco Lindor. Not much really needs to be said here. Ever since he transitioned to the leadoff role last year, we know what he did. Runner up for the MVP, amazing second half, no surprise. And the Yankees missing piece. Now the Mets king of the castle in right field, batting second, Juan Soto, Mr. Steal Your Girl, Mr. Steal Your City. Um,
You got to get those shirts made up fast.
I might have to. I mean, that came out of nowhere. We got to write that one down.
It's already forgotten. Too late.
And
Somebody.
I know, I know this all batting third has been debated over social media and on the radio, but I personally think it should be Pete Alonso, but playing first base. People talk about Vientos or Nimmo. I think it should be Alonso. Just because of what he's proven, obviously to be that true power bat in the order. I think he's going to have a chance to see some big pitches and good pitches mixed in the mix there behind Lindor and Soto and ahead of Vientos and some of these other guys that I will get to shortly. That's a good segue into the four hole. I think it's going to be Mark Vientos, the budding superstar playing third base. And I
There
do
you go.
think Vientos may potentially take that three spot, honestly, as the season progresses, if Pete isn't producing, as we
Right.
saw, back in 2024, Vientos was hitting in the three hole for a lot of the important games to close out the season. So I think that could flip flop. But for now, we're going Alonso 3, Vientos 4.
And
I
I
know.
want to interrupt
Yeah,
quickly
please,
because I'm
please.
just curious. Who do you think is going to have a lower strikeout rate coming into this season or go, as the season progresses?
In terms of Alonso versus Vientos.
Yes, because I
Oh,
wonder in terms of who backs who up in that situation, right? Do you worry about the guy in the third slot striking out more, then you have fewer opportunities to get deeper in the lineup in the early innings? You know what I mean? So I'm wondering, do you have any concerns about that?
I do, and that's why if Alonso really is showing a high strikeout rate early in the season, he's chasing balls outside of the zone, which we know he is accustomed to doing. We're really losing some valuable productivity in that three hole. That I think it might be worth swapping those two guys and using Alonso as that true old school again 4 hole power bat who we know strikes out a lot, but we know is going to hit that 35 plus home runs. But I
Boom or
think
bust.
exactly, boomer bust. But for now, I want to see how he looks in the three hole. Obviously, maybe trying to take some different approaches at the plate, playing more, full field approach, going oppo, using his true raw power. So we'll see.
Protection is
But
going to be key in that lineup for sure. Beyond
it
anything beyond Alonso, it's just going to be a big question mark until you get a couple weeks in, I would imagine, right?
it is. But for right now, I think this is a good way to run it out there until you see different, honestly. So for right now, I think it's going to be Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Vientos. That's a tough top four for a lot of pitchers to face if Vientos stays on the trajectory he's been on.
Oh yeah.
I know the Astros announced Frember Valdez as their starting opening day pitcher. So obviously
Hmm.
that's a lefty. So in the 5 hole, this one might be. I might get some feedback here from the Mets fans. People might say Brandon Nimmo, but I'm going to slot in our DH, whether it's Jesse Winker, which it won't be for opening day. It'll be Starling Marte if healthy from the right
Mm,
side of the plate facing the lefty.
sure.
And I like that because I think Nimmo adds some additional depth to this lineup and on base percentage ability in the 6 hole playing left field. So I like Nimmo batting sixth. Batting seventh is a guy who I slot into the lineup as early as I guess I want to say a week ago, and that's Brett Beatty because we saw Jeff McNeil go down, who's now going to be out 2 to 4 weeks, and we'll get into that a little
Yeah.
later in the pod. But we've talked about Beatty plenty in the first 2 episodes of this pod, and I, still have high hopes for him. He was drafted in the early rounds for a reason. There is a good baseball player in there, I believe, and this is his last chance, really, and this is time for him. So I think he's perfect in the 7 hole.
Well,
That
we're
he,
all waiting with bated breath for him to make an impact. Sorry, couldn't help myself. Continue.
I no, it's okay. I saw it coming. That's why I paused.
I had to squeeze in as quickly as I could. There's a second there was any break in the conversation. Anyway.
But yeah, so in the 7 hole, we got Beatty batting second. In the 8 hole, we got Luis Torrens at as our catcher and our backstop. And batting ninth, this is up for debate. I will say Jose Siri in center field. People might say Tyrone Taylor. But I think it's going to be
Mm,
Siri, and Taylor will be his usual late inning sub for defense, even though might not be as standard here anymore because Siri is such a good defensive center fielder. So maybe Taylor might even sub in and left late innings for Nimmo, and we let him rest that knee up, but time will tell.
makes sense.
Um,
Yeah.
I will say, Ed, let me quickly run through this one last time. We got Lindor, Soto, Alonso, Vientos, Marte, Nimmo, Beatty, Torrens, and Siri. I will say the depth in this lineup does not look as scary as it did maybe a few weeks ago with McNeil and Alvarez slotted into this lineup. But I will say it is definitely still top heavy, but there is some potential pop at the bottom of the order in Siri and Beatty, but that is yet to be determined. So I still think, I'm happy running this out in the field. I still think it's going to be a really strong top 5, top 10 lineup in this league, but time will tell.
Hey, that is what you need, and that's why you play 162, to quote a very smart man that I spoke to about sports once.
Who's that? Babe Ruth?
Uh, yeah, that guy, I think. Something like that. I forget who told me. That's why you play 162. Never heard that before. No, it's a solid lineup, but no, definitely more question marks than you thought coming into it. I think the lineup was the thing that you were thinking, oh, we're set. Nothing else to question. And I'm suddenly looking at the Yankees lineup like, oh, you know what? When I came into the season, I didn't think we were fully fleshed out, and now I look at it like we have a lot of versatility, and maybe I shouldn't be so concerned. So it's funny what a couple weeks will do, especially in spring training and some good performances. And again, it's why you play 162, and spring training don't mean jack.
No, to that point, honestly, the reason for spring training is to see who's going to be injured or not when it comes to the start of the season, in my opinion, because we're still 2 weeks away, if that, and not less than 2 weeks away, which is very exciting. But at the same time, knock on wood, there's more injuries that could happen. I hope not. We've already dealt with plenty. That's a conversation for another day on why I think spring training should not be this long, but we'll get into that on another discussion.
Well, you'll have to catch the leprechaun before he runs away to pray for any more luck and healthy injury-less spring
Don't,
training.
don't worry, he's handcuffed behind me right now. We're fine. We're good to go. I got him here.
Chain to the
Don't worry.
radiator.
Chain to the radiator, tape on the mouth, Ed. But I will
Just sweating it
say,
out.
I will say, we let those Yankees go first in the lineup prediction. How do you feel about letting these Mets take a stab at strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah, I'll let you go on it. You're on a good run, and I got to collect my thoughts anyway. So I got to get my Yankee cap back on.
I appreciate that honesty. I got the Yankee cap back on. It's you can't do much thinking with that thing on, but you try your best.
It just doesn't let any of the outside noise afflict my own opinions, you know? That's the best thing about the Yankee cap. It's like I can be ignorant as I want to be in my Yankee fandom.
That's good. The Mets cap just makes me look like a 10-year-old boy. My ears pop out the side, and I look like the
Perfect.
leprechaun. So,
And that's why no one wears them. It's great.
oh man, but you
All
know what,
right, so
Ed?
you tell me, yeah, you tell
Yeah.
me how you're feeling about
So
how strong, how weak, and where those strengths and weaknesses are coming from.
I feel like these are pretty obvious, but I'm going to lay it out here. I'm going to lay out the strengths. I'm going to lay out the weaknesses. I'm going to rattle off. I'll let you give me some Yankee criticism, and then you could give me yours, and I will rip you apart. But from that, we will start out with the Mets' strengths. And I previously mentioned it a few minutes ago. I think it's the team depth. It's a major strength, particularly in the lineup, as well as the bullpen. Honestly, this depth, Ed, reminds me of some Mets teams of past. And I would say the top three for me are the 2015 Mets, 2022 Mets, and 2016 Mets. When we're talking, recent Mets rosters with depth similar to 2025 season.
Hmm.
Because this team, we really do have a veteran presence. It's a core that's been there for years in Nimmo, Lindor, Alonso, McNeil, Marte. And then you have this young talent mixed in with Vientos and Alvarez and Acuna and Beatty and a lot of other guys on the horizon. And you also have these, newer ads over the past few seasons who, of course, feature Juan Soto. And then you have like a guy like Jesse Winker and Siri and Torrens and Taylor. So with that, I really think this depth is something not to sneeze at. I know we got some injuries, but I think we can ride the ship, tide the ship. What's that saying?
Right the ship.
Yeah, I was wrong both ways, but we could right the ship while we got some injuries. So I think that is one of our strengths. And when I go to the bullpen here, I think the bullpen depth is finally complete or more complete than it has been in years past because we finally added that arm to complement your elite closer. And along with solid, reliable middle of the road guys and like a Stanek and a Reed Garrett who are pretty proven middle relievers now who are reliable, have good strikeout stuff, high velo, and also just like super underrated, right? Having veteran guys who will be in the farm. Guys
Right.
like a Chris Davinsky and a Genesis Cabrera, Anthony Goose or Goss or Goose or
Ghost. You have
Goss.
Anthony
Goss or
Ghost?
yes, we
Anthony
do.
Goes was a former outfielder. So funny enough, this is an interesting topic, and I'm sorry to derail it a little bit, but former Yankee, current White Sox player who's been released, I think, already, which is saying something. Joey Gallo has just
Yes,
announced
I
on
saw that.
Twitter, and I think we put it up on our Instagram, that he will be converting to a pitcher. I don't know if this is said in jest or if he's legitimate or serious, but point is he's clearly turned himself or was an elite power hitter who I think was rewarded for being the wrong type of player at a time where we overvalued that, the three true outcomes, all these things, whatever. And when the juice balls, he was being rewarded for this loopy swing that gave him extreme launch angle, but was in no way conducive to a successful major league hitter's swing. Anyway, I digress. He is going to try the route to become a pitcher because he does have an elite arm. He was a great outfielder beyond his inability to hit the ball for a period of time. And Anthony Goes is a very similar story where he came up as a top prospect. I believe it was for the Tigers, played with the Blue Jays, the Indians, or sorry, the Guardians, excuse me. And he didn't cut it, or I think he was a Phillies prospect too. So I can go on about this, but he came up, was supposed to be a great player, speedy outfielder type, couldn't crack it, became a pitcher, has been doing that for like 5 years now, and
Yeah.
has gotten a couple of shots. So pretty fascinating that he's in Mets camp. I had no idea about that.
Yeah, and he's having a good spring around 6 innings, 5 strikeouts, a 1.5 ERA in 6 games. So,
Good for him.
he's definitely not gonna break camp, but you never know, how injuries play out. And, it's always good again to have these veteran guys. And by the way, before I keep going here, Joey Gallo, I wish him all the best as long as he doesn't fart on camera again or whatever. And during the interview, that was something crazy.
That was
But
the greatest
regard
thing he did as a Yankee. Actually, I was at one game where he hit a walk off that he was pretty sure was foul. He like stood in the batter's box and like kind of leaned it in, sort of like a la Carlton Fisk back in the day, and just like wishing it fair, and it just snuck over the outfield wall. Looked like a pop up. Beautiful, beautiful story. We'll post it sometime. I got great video. So yeah,
yeah,
we're wishing him some luck.
we are. He does definitely has crazy eyes, but I'm hoping for the best for him. But now
Absolutely.
I
And speaking of the luck
digress.
of the Irish, lucky number 13, first guy to wear it after A-Rod left the Yankees. People had
Oh, you
some
never
some
know.
comments for that, so it's interesting.
Big
But we
St.
do wish
Patty's
him
Day
luck.
episode.
Hey, it's all about the luck of the Irish lads.
But yeah, and I mean, quickly, I'll continue here just with the bullpen depth after going with Anthony Goose.
Goes.
Goes, jeez, I cannot get this back. Anthony goes, but yeah, I also have a guy. Yaskar Brazaban, of course, I can nail that name, and Jose
That's
Urania.
impressive. Yep.
And the season's long. There's going to be blood. There's going to be relievers who are getting hurt. Basically, relief pitchers are a piece of paper and they rip easily, and we need an influx of them, and that's what we got. So I think the bullpen depth is something not to sneeze at this year. And I will say, Ed, just coming back to the teams I related this 2025 roster to, 2022 was a really sad year in particular because this was probably one of the deeper, again, Mets teams in history from DeGrom, Scherzer, Bassett, and Walker in the rotation alongside Lindor, Alonso, Nimmo, Marte, McNeil, Canna, who else? Escobar, JD Davis, and we just had so many more at the plate, and it was a shame how it ended. Getting crushed in the House of Horrors in Atlanta, and then flopping at the end of the wild card. That's enough there. But I will say
And a
to get
completely
back
different rotation. That's crazy. You mentioned all those starters. None of them are there with you anymore. Crazy.
completely different rotation. But I know now that I'm reminiscing on these seasons, I did have a quick funny story about baseball superstition that I'll share briefly. So I related it back to the 2015 Mets, right? And that was an awesome run, as us Mets fans know, came up just a little short. But the 2015 World Series, right? I was in college and broke, like many in school. We were drinking cheap vodka at the time called Gordon's in our grimy basement for game one of the playoffs against the Dodgers. Shout out to the Franklin boys. The way that series went, though, and for the Mets to win in five, DeGrom had so much grit, by the way. And of course, with baseball superstition, we had to go on and then drink a fifth of this disgusting vodka for the entirety of the playoffs, thinking that was the key to their success. And mind you, the Mets made it to game five of the World Series. So at the time, we weren't seeing much of the classroom. It was rough. It was an amazing few weeks. But yeah,
incredible. You've made.
I just had to mention that. Yeah, exactly. I know my liver was hurting after that, and we were just sad, obviously, because we didn't finish off against the Royals. But
meet the mess.
Meet the mess.
Right up and greet the mess.
I have to get back on topic. I'm sorry, but I was reminiscing now about these earlier Mets teams.
And don't I think, do this at home, boys and girls. Terrible
please
idea.
Don't. And don't drink Gordon's vodka. I promise you. Just try to pay a few extra dollars for the better stuff. I promise.
Just don't drink vodka. It's disgusting. Just something else. Class it up a little bit, guys. Come on.
Yeah. We were in college. Now we're drinking something a little better than that. But
toilet wine. Make toilet wine. Like that's better.
Toilet wine's good, and you can get it for cheap on the dark web.
And you will be better off drinking that because you won't remember anything about the Mets season, and it will help you just numb the misery.
That's a good segue, though, Ed, because I'm avoiding the weaknesses, I think. So I think that's a fair segue that you put it, because this is something that I might be miserable about by the end of the season, but we are going to jump in, and that is the starting rotation, of course. I mean, this was a big question mark long before Manaea Montas even went down. I understand what Hafner has done, and he's the GOAT, right? And the Mets pitching lab has drastically improved over the past few seasons. Well, he's getting to be a GOAT.
Yeah, scapegoat is what he's going to be when you guys stink this year.
Yankee fans always got one penny or two to throw in there, huh?
Oh, well, I don't know about this year. We might not have any pennies left after what these prices are looking like, but continue.
That's a good point. But outside of just Hefner, the Mets pitching lab has really improved drastically over the past few seasons, as we know. But sometimes you can only get struck by lightning once. And I feel like that is the wrong saying as well, Ed. Do we have that wrong?
Lightning strikes twice? I don't know.
All right. Well, we're going to make this a new one, because you usually only get struck by it once. And that's what I'm going to tie the analogy to here, I guess.
I was going to say Yogiisms. All right. He played for the Yankees and the Mets. We'll call him Alecisms.
Yeah. There we go. I like that. We should get that on a shirt too. Alecism. You only get struck by lightning once, hopefully, or hopefully never.
Alecism is also not a neurocognitive disease, so if anyone's concerned,
I mean, I might have it, but
that's also true.
But so the starting rotation, clean cut and dry, is a big worry of mine. The good thing is, Holmes, the Holmes project looks like it's on a crash course towards success. I know he had not a rough outing. We gave 2 earned runs the other day. He is human. He keeps developing pitches.
No, he is horse.
Yeah, he's horse, right? And then, you have a guy like Sanga, who a little bit of a question mark this year. He keeps developing new pitches with weird names. The new one is called the Miracle Ball, I think, slow looping curveball, something like that.
Miracle Mets, that makes sense.
The Miracle Mets. But then you also have a guy like David Peterson, who's finally coming into his own, and he's looking like a stud, post hip surgery last season. So regardless of the back end question marks, there is age in this rotation. Sanga is a must to bounce back, I think, and that's going to be a big X factor. Of course, the Holmes project is a given, but again, the top prospect of the Mets farm system in Sproat is on the horizon. So regardless, it's a weakness, but I think there is some silver lining there. Um, but Ed, I'm sorry I rambled for some time. I thought it was
I
all
interrupted plenty.
necessary. That's
Absolutely.
okay. That's the name of the game. So I'll pass it back to you, and I can't wait to interrupt.
Well, I'm not going to give you anything. No, I'm kidding. I think that's a great rundown, and I think in terms of strengths and weaknesses, we discussed on the last pod a little bit of it. I think right now you looked coming into the season that the starting rotation was a strength. I still think it's somewhat of a strength. It's weird. I think
Mhm.
everything's got a little bit of a caveat, and I feel a little wishy-washy in my answers right now. Um, as I don't feel any sort of stress about the guys that will come in to fill the slots of Cole and Heel. I think Will Warren has looked fantastic, as we've talked about. Carlos Carrasco had another very solid outing. I believe it was yesterday or 2 days ago. So, guys we mentioned as filling in or as the next men up. Alan Winans, another guy who had a really nice outing yesterday. He piggybacked off of Carlos Carrasco. I believe he gave up 2 runs, but they each pitched about 4 innings. And then today, Sean Boyle, who's another reliever starter, kind of in between guy at AAA for the Yankees, has pitched, I believe, 12 and a third innings so far and given up, I believe, only 4 earned runs. So he's looking really good, racking up K numbers, and is turning into a dark horse option as we hurdle down the pike toward opening day. So
Well, Boyle rules.
Oh, Boyle rules. Boyle rules. Well, I hope Boyle rules because we could use Boyle in that rotation. And yeah, let's just hope that he is a friend of ours and not a somebody that we got to hurl off the side of a cliff. Um,
I hope so.
so, and again, we talked about spring breakout. So there's some pitchers in there that are having opportunities to showcase themselves, but I don't think will make much of an impact coming up. So the rotation itself, I believe, is a strength and a weakness, and I think it's something that somehow we just continue year after year to find ways to piece together. And I believe in Matt Blake. You're saying Hefner's the GOAT. I think Matt
Mm.
Blake's the GOAT, right? The pitching
It's
lab that
even. It's even.
it's even. Well, you'll be happy to know that Matt Blake prepared Clay Holmes for whatever you're going to do with him now. So you have us to thank for anything that he does this year. That is
Of
my opinion.
course, Yankee fans
Look at his
always
numbers
trying to
in
take
Pittsburgh.
credit.
Look at his numbers in Pittsburgh. All right, they were Schittsburg. That's what I'm telling you. That's all I'm
Oh,
saying.
you know what? Regardless, you could try to take all the credit you want, but we're gonna get the product of this credit that you were trying to take. So I'll take it.
You're right. It does sound a little pedantic at this point. So I'm just going to move forward and not give you too much credit. So that said, I think the other possible weakness and strength, and right now I'm going to go to weaknesses first and maybe go back into strengths, but I think our backup infield positions and our bench are a little concerning. I like each piece, but each individual piece is also not as impressive as the sum of the parts, right? So
Mm.
I don't think anyone sounds all that sexy. You think of Cabrera, you think of Peraza, um, other options in the Dom Smith we talked at as maybe being a dark horse candidate for a backup bench role, right? Lefty home run pop. We don't really have a specific first base backup right now, especially with DJ hurt. Oswaldo's kind of your best go-to, and Bellinger, right? I guess we have versatility in that respect, and I kind of keep forgetting Bellinger is somebody they plan to spell Goldschmidt at first with. So we do have some flexibility, but I feel like we could use one more piece that makes me a little more confident. Versatile in some way, right? Outfield, infield, kind of does it all. I don't know who that guy is right now, and if I'm just searching for somebody that will eventually carve that role out for themselves. But right now, I'm feeling a little like there's just one more piece. If we had him, I don't know who, but I would feel that much more confident going into the season because there's one piece missing, and I can't put my finger on it right now.
Not to cut you off at all, Ed, even though I
No, no, no,
really
please.
want to here. It is
I wouldn't
well
let you. I took the mic right back.
well, I wanted to more so actually ask you a question. In terms of like a guy, I know you're trying to find some more depth here. What about like a Spencer Jones or Ben Rice? What is the
That's a
the
good point.
outlook on those guys?
That's a good point. And I kind of keep sleeping on Ben Rice. And I don't know why, because last year I really had a lot of faith in him. And he started off really hot, had a huge game against Boston, one that I kind of wanted to go to and had my own issues figuring out how to get to the ballpark that day, but was pissed that I didn't get down to it because it was a historic ball game. But I like Ben Rice. I like his attitude. I like his versatility. And you're absolutely right. He's a guy that should fill in that space. And I feel a little foolish that a Mets fan had to tell me that. So I'm sleeping on Ben Rice. We shouldn't. Uncle Ben's rice is the best, and this Uncle Ben is going to give us the Rice Bowl of the century. So I don't know
Spider-Man
what
Uncle
that means.
Ben, or which Uncle Ben we talking about?
Oh no, Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben's rice. It's
Oh,
the rice
the
pots.
actual
Yeah, Uncle
brand. Yeah,
Ben. Yeah, yeah. So
not
it's a
I'm
little
not Spider-Man.
controversial these days. Exactly. We'll make our own Uncle Ben's rice, but Uncle Ben will still say, "With great power comes great responsibility." And Ben, you will understand just that when you're coming into this season, because I think
Ooh,
he
great
is
segue.
actually going to have some opportunity to really take hold of some spots. And as we said, Goldschmidt's only there for a year, so there's some opportunity for him even as a third catcher. So Ben Rice, he's the spiciest white guy and does some great work speaking Spanish fluently, and apparently best friends with Spencer Jones. So go figure that. Um, but yeah,
Awesome.
so good points. I don't think Spencer Jones is going to make it up this year. I think it might be another year in the minors for him, but I do like Ben Rice. And beyond that, I think our strengths are the bullpen looks great. I think our outfield is excellent. And obviously, beyond that, I think I've covered all of our bases, but I
Well,
don't think you're going to
you're
have.
faster than me, which is crazy.
I know I'm trying to really condense the amount of time that I wax poetic about these people. I'm not telling anybody that things they don't necessarily know, just reminding you guys that we got some good things to look forward to and that the Yankees are not in as dire straits as maybe many people think.
Ooh, you know what? I'm really proud of you for doing that.
Thank you very much. I really got
I
to catch a breath. I'm going to go get the oxygen tank.
Yeah, I'll fill the void while you go do that. But yeah, I think I waxed poetic
Thank
too
you.
much about drinking Gordon's vodka in a grimy college basement. So that was enough about that. I
I'm not
appreciate
going to tell
you.
you those stories. You're just going to watch it happen in real time.
Well, yeah, we'll be on video soon, so they'll watch us both drink Gordon's vodka, and that will be a segment we will do eventually at some point this season. So
If we
the
don't have a
viewers,
sponsorship after this episode, they're dead to us.
they honestly might be in jail for making that product. So I don't know. We'll cross that bridge. We'll have to reach out.
No, we'll get Gordon's fish sticks if anything else.
Ooh, that sounds good. But Ed, I
Yeah.
appreciate you run through that quick. We're gonna run into bullet predictions. I want us to go one for one here and saying first who's gonna have a monster first week, quick one liner on why, and then we'll switch it off and go to who can't afford episode start.
All right, I like that. And we're going to get started hot and something out of this world for this monster first week. Maybe not a monster, but we call him the Martian. His name is
Mm.
Jason Dominguez. Yankee fans are no stranger to Jason Dominguez. We've known about this kid since he was 16 years old. The next Mike Trout, a giant for his size. He's only 5'9", but I think he weighs about 225. He is jacked. You've seen him. He's fast. He can throw the ball. He can hit for power. Hits full average. Was named after Jason Giambi, actually. Fun fact. So he was ticketed for the Bronx from birth, one can say. Set the world on fire when he came up in 2023, hitting his first home run off Verlander against the Astros. I believe it was Verlander. Might have to remind myself. So, yeah, that was the year he got traded back. So, my point is, Dominguez, we've been waiting for him. He's finally arrived. He's crash landed to earth, and he's done some incredible things in the minor league level that we haven't seen translate to the majors. And I believe he's finally comfortable enough, finally feels like he's got his space. He changed his number from the 80s to number 24, so he's a real Yankee now. He's a real Yankee, and he is
Real boy.
going to he's a real boy, and he's going to take the league by storm in that first week just because all of the nonsense, all of the detractors, all of the haters. And again, he's going to start off as DH so he can really focus on that bat and hitting tool and again, make Yankee Stadium his personal launching pad. So that said, or his Area 51, Area
Ooh.
161. Oh,
You know what? We're being real quippy with it today. I don't know if that works. I don't know if
that
that
works.
works. It
We're,
works for now. We'll make it
we're
work.
we're just trying to get the merchandising going. So I think because by hook or by crook, and just because again he's out of this world and is overdue to showcase his abilities, the Martian is going to have a monster Martian-like first week.
And I will confirm, Ed, for you because you are the human baseball almanac. Jason Dominguez, insane Yankees debut home run was off Verlander. So congratulations.
You're welcome. Sometimes I just don't know if any of this stuff is actually real. I just think I'm making it all up for my own narrative. But
Oh, well, you're not. So you know what? The people will be proud.
I would sure hope so. But if you're not, get wrecked.
Get wrecked.
So that said, who's your monster Met for week one or the first couple weeks of the 2025 season?
Yeah, I think who's going to have a monster first week is a guy like Francisco Lindor. Not because he's probably a popular pick, right? But it's because he's due for a hot start. He came out of the gate so slow last season. Yes, we know he finished strong, carried the team on his back to almost winning the MVP award. But a strong early start for him is the benefit to not only his confidence, but it builds team momentum and just it's an overall contagious kind of feel for the rest of the lineup when your leader provides such success early on. And he started slow in spring and historically, again, gets off these slow starts. But he did say it himself, Ed, that he's determined to come out, ready to go. And he is aware of the long season ahead. So he's really just trying to get his reps in and prepping his body for the long haul. So with that, yeah, he's my monster.
And he is a monster
He is
on
a
both
monster.
sides of the ball. That dude, but what a smile. So
Watching
handsome.
Mr. Smile and watching him play defense just makes me so happy because that's old school, baby. And I love that.
Oh yeah, dude. And speaking of that smile, you ever think you got a cameo in that like horror film smile? How great would that be?
Well, I hated what they used to do that whole promo where they would stand there
Oh, it
all
was so
game and
smart.
she's. I mean, it was so smart, but also they better be getting paid a lot because they're standing there smiling for literally a whole baseball game.
Oh
That's
my
pretty
God, can
impressive.
you imagine how hard that hurts too? Like, do you ever smile too long or laugh too hard for too long and your cheeks just hurt or your eyes? Like, they got their eyebrows up and everything. Just your face must be, I don't even know if there is a massage good enough to relax that.
They're gonna have some crazy wrinkles one day, so it better be worth it for them, I guess.
Lindor too, it's just a sign of a life well lived.
Yeah, but he's just a happy Met, and that's why he's smiling. And I'm glad he is our captain. And Ed, I will now give you my slow start, and I'll pass it your way, and we'll go a little reverse here.
Yeah, I dig it.
I pulled the Uno reverse card on you, so I'm going to give you who can't afford to have a slow start for the Mets. This one's fun because this was originally no, not fun, I would say, because it's another injury, but it was originally Jeff McNeil
Mm.
because of the second base competition heating up. But now, again, him being injured and out for 2 to 4 weeks, I'm flip flopping this to now be Brett Beatty can't afford to have a slow start because I assume Beatty, as I previously mentioned, will get the first look on opening day at second base. And
Master Beatty.
Master Beatty, and I'm telling you, if he's tearing the cover off the ball, playing plus defense for 2 weeks, and McNeil gets back and he looks sluggish at the plate and in the field in the final season of his contract, Beatty may get more and more reps way quicker than originally predicted, and I'm here for it. He was a tough draft pick for a reason, honestly. And again, like I previously mentioned, there is a good ball player in there somewhere. And if it's not, it's his last shot.
Yeah, he just got to beat the snot out of his best friend. No big deal. Take the job. It's all good.
Well, no,
Vientos?
he's no. Him and Vientos might be able to join
No,
this
I know. He's going
team
to take the second base.
together.
Yeah. How do you like him at second base?
Honestly, in spring he's looked good. I think I need to see him in some bigger games, playing in real MLB stadiums with the real crowd noise. But he's adjusted well. He's a big body. He has pretty good mobility for a big guy. He could definitely be rolling his double plays a little quicker from my own kind of eye test. But I guess time will tell. And he's got pop, more pop than Jeff, and I kind of like that pop in a second baseman that you don't tend to see.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you know, more recently, in the new era
Sure.
of baseball, you do. But typically, a second baseman is not the guy with pop. So we'll see. I'm
As
excited.
long as he's got the feet for it, you never know. Could work out and be a happy accident.
Get your dancing shoes on, baby.
McNeil's about to get Wally pipped out there, so
Oh
we'll
yeah.
see.
How about you?
I think for me, it's kind of similar. It's someone along the same lines, and maybe it'll become as a shock because again, he had a good performance in the World Series last year. But I think there's a little bit of patience that's running thin with the fans, and I believe with other people coming up, as we've spoken in the last episode, on his heels in the minor leagues and spring breakout. I think it's Anthony Volpe.
Ooh.
Anthony Volpe needs a hot start. We've given him the heir apparent. We've been patient with him as fans. He had a really solid start to his rookie year, struggled in ways that we weren't expecting, but he always had a trajectory that saw him go to from double A or single A to double A, and he would start slow next season, start hot, and get advance to the next level. So I saw that trajectory continuing for Volpe last year until it didn't. It
Hmm.
seems like he got into some really bad habits. Swing got long, tried to cut down on home runs, but also wasn't putting the ball in play as frequently. So he's just got to figure out what's going to work for him at this level. I don't know if he's connecting well with the hitting coaches or not. I don't know if he's too much in his head. Austin Wells had chicken parm with him and he unlocked something, more than a year ago. But I don't know how much chicken parm the kid can handle.
Chicken
And
parm cures all, honestly.
well, it does. That is true. But and if we're eating the chicken parms, maybe we won't be so worried about it. But until
That's
then,
true.
until we get a lifetime supply of chicken parms for all Yankee Nation, I think we're going to be hard on Volpe. We expect a lot. He does have the tools. He's got the right mentality. He seems like a great kid. Just need him to get on base a little more consistently and use those tools. He's fast. He can beat the ball into the ground. He can drive it line to line. He's got all the ability. He just needs to put it together this year because you got Lombard, you got Arias, you got Vargas. You got all these shortstop prospects that are really starting to make noise in spring training and the minor league level. So eventually that time's going to run out. So Volpe got to have a hot start.
I like that, Ed. I think it's a great pick, and I think Volpe, Jesus, I can't pronounce anyone's name right,
Uh,
but he to me is a sleeper. I think he's super talented, and I think he is a gamer, and he's proven it on the biggest stage of all in the World Series. So,
Absolutely.
I think it's a good pick, and it's someone again can't afford to have a hot start. I mean, can't afford to have a slow
Well, you
start.
can certainly afford to have a hot start.
I hope he. No, you know what? I'm not going to wish him any ill will. I actually do like Anthony Volpe for one of the Yankee players I don't dislike. So yeah, I like the
Yeah,
pick. I
I
do.
love his makeup, man. I love it, and I want the Fox to keep socking him. He looks like the ball player we need, and I think he can be that guy for years to come. There's just something between the ears that's not fully connecting right now, and again, it's just in his head. He's got the physical tools. He's proven it. He hit 20 home runs as a rookie. He had a Gold Glove as a rookie. He's got the ability. You
Hmm.
just got to be more consistent. So,
I like
hey,
that. I
that's
do.
baseball.
Baseball, Susan and Ed. We're going to dive into our thoughts on MLB opening the season at the Tokyo Dome. Ed, I will start this out, and then I'm going to pass it to you because I know you have a lot on this and a lot you want to say. But I know while we're all waiting for opening day, again, it turns out it's already happening just on the other side of the world.
Christmas came early, Mom.
It did. It did. But in mid March, which again, I'll get into my feelings about that, but the MLB season is kicking off at the Tokyo Dome. But it's bringing up the question, right? Should baseball start overseas or does it throw off the rhythm of the season? And my quick 2 cents I'm going to add, and I'll pass it back again, is the Mets did actually kick off a season in Japan. It was back in 2000 against the Cubs. It was actually the Bobby V era. Wild times, which I don't really remember because I was a little young. But the Yankees did do it in 2004 as well. So is it time for another New York team to go back? I selfishly would say yes, because the last time we were there, we did go to the World Series. And Ed, I will say I was only 6 and young. Again, don't remember much about that World Series, but I do know one thing. If Timo Perez was hustling on Zeal's near home run in game one, it would have changed the entire series. It was a close World Series when you dig into the numbers, just saying, I don't you never know. Just I'll let you take your rips on that one. I'll leave it
It
there.
wasn't nearly as close as the 5-year-old who, grew up and looked it up on Baseball Reference might think.
Oh, is that so? I
But if
I
you were
taped it.
watching these games like I was at the ripe old age of 10, um, you would notice that we waxed you guys. So that's still to this day, the only World Series game I've been to is the Game 2 2000 World Series. Roger Clemens throws the broken bat at Piazza. I
Yes.
was in the nosebleeds, had no idea what was going on live, but I did know by the crowd reaction that something crazy was going on. So my 10-year-old self got real rabid in that moment with my foam finger. And let's just say I was doing something not so nice with the foam finger. But
At
that
10?
said, at 10, can you believe it? It's what you were born in.
So
At the
baseball does
Bronx.
to you, baby. New
It's
York
the
baseball.
zoo. Exactly. But no, dude, yeah, it's good that you mentioned Bobby V as well. He's actually a legend in Japan as well.
Yes.
So the Chiba Lotte Marines is the team that he was the head coach for or the manager for after his time in New York had finished, and actually won a Japanese championship for them. And that is the same franchise that Roki Sasaki just came over from. So, tying that all together. And again, they'll be playing that opening series there. But my opinion on the matter is I like it. I do like the idea of the season opening abroad. I don't hate the idea. I just don't like the timing of it right now. It's too early. I feel rushed, right?
Yes.
I feel like, oh my God, I don't have time. And, fantasy leagues are like, yeah, we're just going to not consider those two games because we don't have time for
They
the
don't know
rest
what
of
to
it.
do. They just don't know
Right.
what to do.
So I think it's part of Major League Baseball's initiative to create like a 24-hour news cycle. They're trying to be more like the NFL, NBA, whatever it might be, and just have events going on at all times, right? Which is smart. You got to figure out ways to keep yourself relevant throughout. Again, if you're not relevant for a few days, then you've basically fallen off the face of the map. So in today's economy and this ecosystem, I believe that it's not a bad idea to obviously do and grow the game internationally with players who are from the country itself. It makes sense to have the Dodgers and the Cubs there, right? You got Seiya Suzuki, Shota Imanaga. You've
Mm.
got obviously the big three pitchers and Otani, I should say, included in that triumvirate with Yamamoto, Sasaki, and Otani. So it makes complete sense to have those teams to do it and to incur goodwill and get young kids to see their heroes playing against international competition at the highest level, at the peak Premier League in the world. However, I think the timing is weird. You look
And you
going
know
back
what?
to 2000 and 2004; those were played in March 30th and 31st. Yeah,
See, it's so
were
much
you
more normal.
right? And were you tired? Were you like, was it harder for those teams? Yeah, probably a little bit. But as you said, the Mets made the World Series. Not that much harder on them. Did you come back and struggle for a game or two? Yeah, I think they got shut out for a game or two right after they
It's
came
a long
back.
season, right?
Exactly. And they probably were tired. But it's the investments that we put on it. We give everybody all this time, and it just disrupts the flow to meet the needs of a few, right? And I think that can be frustrating.
I agree. And Ed, I was going to lean on you here too, because you are Ed the Almanac. I think we're going to get that also on a t-shirt
Edmanac?
eventually.
Edmanac.
The Edmanac and the Alakism. I love it. I really do love it. But I will say, I know there's some big Japanese prospects, I'm sure, on the horizon that you can name, but low key, my favorite, outside of Sanga, of course, is Shota Imanaga, fellow
Hmm.
lefty and just a really solid looking lefty. He reminds me of a guy like Ranger Suarez, who I dislike because he's a Philly, but he's always working the zone and he's working quickly. And I'm just a fan of his repetition and his discipline and his slow heartbeat on the mound. So, Ed, who is the next big Japanese prospect to watch?
Oh, and the personality too. Imanaga has
Personality,
just
yeah, good
become one of
guy.
my favorites. I'm so mad the Yankees didn't get him. He's just such a goofball. Played in Australia, by the way. I've got a soft spot. Played for the Sydney Blue Sox back in the day. So again, international
Edmanac.
love. Edmanac for our boy Shota. And selfishly, I got to bring up the fact that I just want to do a little shout out here as we're on the
Please.
topic of Japan and the Cubs. My roommate in Australia, Alex Cohen. He won big congratulations out to Alex Cohen. He is now one of the marquee broadcasters, has been for the Cubs TV network for a while, was AAA Iowa Cubs for 7 years, so a stalwart down out in Iowa. But he's finally gotten the call up to the big leagues and is now covering the Cubs for Marquee Network, backing up Boog Xiambi, and will be doing a lot of the coverage in Japan for the Tokyo series. So tune in, guys. He's great. He's a Philly fan, so well, he's a Cubs
Uh,
guy. He's a Philly guy, so we had
yeah.
some tough moments.
But you
But
know what? He's your guy. So I
he's my
give
guy.
him, I'm wishing him all the best. And that's really awesome.
You got it. So I'll bring it back in. One guy that we're hearing a lot about, Murakami, Munetaka
Hmm.
Murakami. He is a hefty lefty batter who plays really good defense and set the world on fire back in 2023 when he set numerous records for home runs, batting, hits an insane amount. The last 2 years, he's had a bit of a fall off, and I'm interested to see. He's just somebody that came through in every clutch moment during the World Baseball Classic in 2023, and the Yankees have long been rumored to be in love with him, the Dodgers as well. So it'll be interesting to see if they do pursue him and maybe why we're not going after a third baseman right now, as he will be coming to the major leagues next year, and he's only 25 years old. Another guy is Kazuma Akamoto for the Tokyo Giants. By the way, Murakami is with the Yakult Swallows. Saw him last year in Tokyo. Again, he is the face of that franchise and is the power bat. Not too dissimilar from what Hideki Matsui was for us a few
Wow.
years back, 20 years ago. So those are guys to look out for. I think the Yankees are going to really go after Murakami, and we'll see. But this other guy I just mentioned, Akamoto, he will be on everybody's radar in the next few months and prove to be capable of taking deep some pitching for the Dodgers and the Cubs. We actually saw the Hanshin Tigers shut out the Cubs and the Dodgers. So if anybody's worried about Japanese baseball not being of the same caliber, sadly mistaken. These guys know how to play ball. They are a major league organization.
And Ed, we know that from the World Baseball Classic, right? I mean, obviously that they're stacked
Absolutely.
with talent. And right now, I'm waving my Kaz Matsui autograph picture in the air because that was our guy.
Well,
And I,
our guy was
yeah,
Hideki Matsui. Your Matsui sucked. Sorry to say. Just
yeah, he had some higher upside, and he kind of proved to be a bit of a bust. But I had some good memories watching him as a kid, and he was pretty smooth at second base. Couldn't really hit much, but
oh yeah, dude, he actually played really well in Colorado Springs. Like I worked out there for a little bit. They have pictures of him out in the Sky Sox, well, former AAA team for the Rockies. They still memorialize him out there in Colorado Springs. So that'll make you feel good. Feel
that
good.
it makes me feel okay, I guess. Doesn't do much for the Mets organization, but you know what? He was a part of my childhood, and that's what matters.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Um,
But I do want to say one more thing, and I'm
please,
sorry to bogart this conversation, but
please.
just because we're on this topic, 2004, I was 14. That's the last time they played in Japan. We had Matsui, obviously, big reason for all it happening. The Yankees played the Tampa Bay Devil Rays at that time. And the opening game was actually Mike Mussina versus Victor Zambrano. I don't know if you remember the name Victor Zambrano,
I do. Classic.
right? So Victor Zambrano actually got the win in this game. 6 innings, 3 earned runs, 4 Ks. Mike Mussina, 5 innings, 5 earned runs, 10 hits, got lit up, right? That's game one. Game two, a little better for the Yankees. They wound up winning 12-1. So it worked out. But this series also saw the Yankee debuts of Alex Rodriguez, Gary Sheffield, Kenny Lofton, Kevin Brown, Tom Gordon, right? All these guys, after a year that the Yankees made the World Series and lost to the Marlins, they had an influx of new talent, new players, all stars, all up and down that lineup. And we know how things worked out in 2004 and beyond, but we're not in a very dissimilar situation now, coming off of a disappointing World Series loss, retooling, and starting fresh with a bunch of new
Hmm.
faces. So it'll be interesting. In 2004, we get to the ALCS, lose to the Red Sox. We're not going to relive that history. However, we were a team on fire, went 101 and 61 that year. I will come back very quickly to Victor Zambrano, though. Victor Zambrano, why is he a Mets issue? What is he known for in Mets history?
Well, I
Was
know
he?
he was absolutely awful as a Met in '05 and '06.
He was.
What did he do? I mean, he's done so many things poorly for the Mets. But what the main one to highlight that I'm dropping the ball on right now? Fill me in, Ed.
All right, got it.
I was
Sorry,
too young.
had
I
to
was only
test you.
10 years. I was only 10. So
It's
remember,
okay. This is
too
just
young.
my weird the vault of Ed. So he at the time of the trade was the leader in walks issued, and the year prior led the league in walks as well. I don't know what got in the Mets' mind, but they traded a prospect, highly touted prospect named Scott Kazmir, in a
Yes, now I remember.
package for
Yep, yep.
Victor Zambrano, who at the time had nothing much to offer, just for a little bit more depth on that 2004 Mets team, which I don't think anyone can really tell you how it finished. However, that said, Scott Kazmir's career beyond that, after that time with Tampa Bay, went 55 and 44 with a 3.92 ERA in 145 games, 144 starts, 874 strikeouts, which is 9.4 strikeouts per nine, two-time All-Star, and was on the 2008 AL champion Rays. So he became an elite pitcher for that staff that turned the franchise around. Where Zambrano came over to the Mets
He
and
was a waste of space.
fell apart. So,
Oh, that's
and
a good.
in his
Sorry, Ed.
career, in Zambrano's career of 7 seasons, 5.4 WAR, 13 seasons for Casimir with a 22.8. So, it was a bit of a lopsided trade that comes back to Japan, and here we are.
Yeah, no, well, I'm glad you mentioned that because it's all coming back to. Because I remember being in high school and just getting heckled by all the Yankee fans about this trade and about how Casimir, what could have been, in those early 2000 years if he was on the Mets, and what could have changed our 2000, potentially 2006 and 2007 runs, right? So
Hey,
you really never know, and we never will know unless we get a time machine and we do something to Victor Zambrano. But for now,
it all led to
it
Juan
is what it
Soto.
is. You know what? That's such a positive way to look at it, and I'm so proud of you today, man.
You know what? I'm just feeling the energy today. I'm
You're feeling
feeling like
good.
feeling lovey.
You know, it's because I leaned on the almanac. It opened the key to just this positive flow of Yankee love for Mets fans, right?
Let the nerd out, and he'll feel a little better about his position in life.
But
That's
you heard
okay.
what I just said, right?
I
You
heard you.
love the Mets
I
and
do
our
not. I'm
fans.
just saying it'll fool you into thinking that we're kind. No,
I see.
as always, get wrecked. And just rubbing in your faces that, yeah, even if you did go to the World Series in 2000, and that was, by the way, when you opened the season in Japan, the first Major League game that took place overseas. So
Yep,
the Mets are a big part of international baseball history.
we
I
are.
just want to give you that fact. I'll give you that. I'll throw you that little bone.
I appreciate that. And you know what? It makes me feel better about just this organization as a whole because it was a rough go early on, as we know, when they first came to fruition. So we're on the up and up, and we've been on the up and up.
Eh, you can say all you want, but that's as
I
far as I'll go.
I'll pretend I didn't hear you there, and I will finish this off because I didn't really give my sentiment on how I felt about this. I realized,
Yes, tell me,
just
tell
real
me.
quick, I personally haven't already. I have no issues with the game in Japan, right? And I have no issues even if it was done in the first week of the season, but I just don't like doing it to open up the season. To me, it doesn't feel right because for me and probably many baseball fans, MLB, and we talked about this offline, is MLB opening day. It's really like a holiday, right? To most of
Absolutely.
us, you have your traditions, your rituals, your superstitions,
Caps
and if your
on.
caps on, if your team is opening up the season across the world mid March when they play again in a few weeks after that, it really just takes the juice out of opening day for your team and your fandom. So regardless, again, if it's the home opener or not, the first game of the season to me is just really special, right? It's just a cheers essentially to the amazing journey that honestly we all get to enjoy throughout the season. We get to hurt together, we get to cry together, we get to cheer together. It's on every night. We love baseball, and I feel like opening day is such a holiday, at least in our household. I don't know. I'm okay with
Totally.
it opening in Japan. I just wish maybe it was a week into the season.
Yeah, and I feel you. And or just again, if it was simultaneous with the other games where it's like, oh, I wake up at
Yep,
5 a.m. and this is cool and exciting. I get to see my team
that's a
do
good
something
point.
different, right? Like that was fun. I remember being like, wow, this is cool. I'm up and it's a whole different day there, right? I just remember those feelings and it did. It made me more interested in what the game was elsewhere. So
Question though,
you're right.
would you have had a hot dog on opening day if your team opened up at 5 a.m.? I would. I
I
would.
definitely would. Oh yeah.
You
I
have to.
mean,
It's a
at that
holiday.
age, my mom probably would have had some issues with it, but she would have
Yeah.
been like, "Why does it smell like hot dogs in here?" And got into the kitchen. But
Now it's just bad for the cholesterol, but we could do what we want.
honestly, I probably would have just pulled the frozen one out and eaten it like that. Sounds disgusting, but a hot
That's
dog
crazy.
popsicle, man. I know it sounds. We'll get into that another day. I had some weird eating
Yeah.
habits.
Same,
But
same.
hey, in Japan, anything you eat, it might look weird, but it's always delicious. And I gotta say, man, when you get a chance, you got to see some Japanese baseball. I got a chance last year to see the Tokyo Giants and the Hanshin Tigers, and that experience is unlike anything else I've ever seen. So it's, I don't know. There's so much respect. There's so much joy. There's so much. It goes from silent to as loud as you can imagine in a heartbeat. So, and it's all about which team is supporting who. If your team's up at bat, that's the time that you get loud. But when they're pitching, you get quiet and you
I like
don't
that.
disrespect those rules. And there's order and everything makes so much sense. And it's just so different, but so passionate. And I don't think anywhere else in the world does it exactly like that,
Yeah.
obviously, and as well as United States baseball does. So,
I would love to get out there because I feel like the cultural difference between just the fandom and how you cheer and the way you go about cheering for your team is just really cool to experience. And I think maybe, if we're God willing, one day we grow this thing, maybe who knows, we'll end up at one of these Japan series in the future. Hit up your boy Alex. You never know.
that's it. We're making it happen, baby. From your lips to the baseball god's ears.
Baseball God's ears, Ed. And you know what? I think it's a perfect time to wrap up this episode of the Big Apple Battle. We are inching closer to opening day. So, again, everybody, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. And hit us up on Instagram to keep up with the conversation. Again, we'll be coming at you soon with our early matchups and predictions of who's going to have a better first few weeks, Mets or the Yankees. So, again, as always, LGM.
Get wrecked and don't forget to get up way too early on the 18th and 19th for these games. But until then, sayonara.
Get the hot dogs on the grill. We'll catch you next time.
This ball is crushed.